Yeah, good morning, all of you. So, in the last session, we talked about the functions of the thyroid hormones, T3 and T4, and the two conditions, hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism. Do you remember there is one more hormone secreted by the thyroid gland, thyrocalcitonin? So you remember thyrocalcitonin maintains your blood calcium levels. So let's see, what does thyrocalcitonin exactly do? This hormone called as thyrocalcitonin is secreted by the parafollicular cells or the C cells of the thyroid gland. If you remember, here you have colloid, and colloid में बनते हैं T3 and T4, and here we have parafollicular cells which are in between the follicles. They secrete the hormone called as thyrocalcitonin. So thyrocalcitonin secreted by the parafollicular cells, also called as the C cells. C cells, that is calcitonin secreting cell. Calcitonin secreting cell or thyrocalcitonin. And what will thyrocalcitonin do? Thyrocalcitonin is secreted when the blood calcium level becomes very high. जब ब्लड में कैल्शियम लेवल बढ़ जाते हैं, इज इट डेंजरस? समझो आपने 3-4 ग्लास दूध पी लिया, या 2 कस्टर्ड एप्पल सीताफल खा लिए, या 3 बनानास खा लिए. मिल्क, custard apple, bananas, rich sources of calcium. And calcium is important for the body, but excessive calcium is bad. Too much calcium, where is it bad? If anybody's heard of it, excessive calcium can go into the kidneys and can cause kidney stones. Stones in the kidneys are made of calcium oxalate or calcium phosphate. तो कैल्शियम ऑक्सलेट और कैल्शियम फॉस्फेट के स्टोन्स बन सकते हैं, and that causes tremendous pain. So you cannot have excessive calcium in the blood. तो बहुत ज्यादा कैल्शियम होगा, which hormone will be secreted? Thyrocalcitonin is secreted, and thyrocalcitonin will decrease the blood calcium level. It will reduce the blood calcium level. How? It will prevent calcium reabsorption from the bones. आपके बोन्स के अंदर बहुत ज्यादा कैल्शियम होता है. Calcium is found in your bones, and thyrocalcitonin will prevent reabsorption of calcium from the bones into blood. As a matter of fact, extra calcium is deposited into bones. Calcium bones में deposit किया जाएगा, so blood में से calcium will deposit in the bones. Bone calcium level will increase, and because calcium is going from the blood into the bones, blood calcium level will decrease. So bone calcium level will increase and blood calcium level will decrease. So calcium bones में deposit हो जाएगा with the help of thyrocalcitonin. And thyrocalcitonin decreases the reabsorption of calcium from the urine. If you remember, RF sir has just taught you, this is your nephron. And nephron में ये है Bowman's cup और ये है renal tubule and ये है proximal convoluted tubule. And if you remember, in the proximal convoluted tubule there is actin reabsorption of glucose, amino acids, and as a matter of fact, calcium. Calcium is actively absorbed. So, calcium is reabsorbed from proximal convoluted tubule. I'll just show you again. Sir, ये है आपका renal tubule, and in the proximal convoluted tubule, there is active reabsorption of calcium along with glucose, amino acid, etc. And calcium in the urine will become less. Calcium in urine will become less, and blood calcium levels will increase. Blood vessels में calcium level will increase. तो इस तरह से कैल्शियम का सिलेक्टिव रीअब्जॉर्प्शन होता है. But suppose there is excessive calcium, then TCT, that is thyrocalcitonin, will act on the proximal convoluted tubule and prevent the reabsorption of calcium. तो कैल्शियम reabsorption prevent किया जाता है, and that means all the calcium goes in the urine and calcium levels in the urine will increase and blood calcium level will decrease. So beautifully calcium has been released into urine. So what has thyrocalcitonin done? It has decreased the blood calcium level by depositing calcium in the bones. Depositing calcium in bones and allowing calcium to pass in urine. Allowing calcium to pass in urine. By preventing reabsorption of calcium in PCT. By preventing reabsorption of calcium in the PCT. In the proximal convoluted tubule. And because of that, bone calcium level will increase and urine calcium level will increase, but blood calcium level will decrease. Blood calcium level will decrease, and thereby we will prevent kidney stone formation. Kidney stone formation is decreased. So thyrocalcitonin decreases the blood calcium level. It is called the hypocalcemic hormone. Hypocalcemic hormone. Hypo less, calcium, calci, emia, blood, anemia, leukemia, emia, anemia, less RBC in the blood, leukemia, excessive WBC in the blood. Emia means blood, so hypocalcemia, less calcium in the blood. It is called hypocalcemic hormone. And what will happen in certain conditions? Sometimes there is excessive secretion of calcium. Excessive calcium hoga, and thyrocalcitonin ka excessive secretion from parafollicular cells can take place, and TCT, thyrocalcitonin, excessively secrete hoga, and excessive secretion causes excessive passage of calcium in the urine, leading to hypocalcemia. And what will happen? Too much calcium in the urine, and also there is reabsorption of calcium from the bones. Bones में से excessive calcium reabsorb हो जाएगा, and that leads to a condition called as osteitis fibrosa cystica. आपके bones में there will be spots. and spots निकलने लगेंगे, and there will be removal of calcium, so that is osteoporosis takes place. Osteoporosis takes place, which is called as osteitis fibrosa cystica sets in, and that will lead to osteoporosis of the bone. That is a condition of excessive calcitonin secretion, and that will lead to osteitis fibrosa cystica. So ये है thyrocalcitonin, and you have another hormone secreted by parathyroid gland. तो चलो थायराइड तीन हॉर्मोन्स हो गए, T3, T4 and thyrocalcitonin. And thyrocalcitonin का एग्जैक्ट ऑपोजिट होता है parathyroid gland. Parathyroid glands are situated on the back side of the thyroid gland. On the back side, two pairs of parathyroid glands are present, one pair in each lobe. तो ये है thyroid gland का back side, उसके अंदर 2 and 2, a total of 2 superior parathyroid glands and 2 inferior parathyroid glands, 2 superior parathyroid glands and 2 inferior parathyroid glands are situated on the back side of the thyroid gland. Parathyroid glands secrete a peptide hormone known as parathyroid hormone. Peptide. Peptide, in other words, protein. And what is the hormone known as? Parathyroid hormone, PTH. So it is a peptide or a protein hormone known as parathyroid hormone, PTH, which is a protein. A protein yani kya? It is made up of amino acids connected by peptide bonds. But this is a permutation and combination of 20 types of amino acids. If you remember, thyroid gland was made up of chains of amino acid called as thyroglobulin, but it was made of only tyrosine. एक ही amino acid था, tyrosine. So there was only one amino acid called tyrosine, and such a hormone was called as an amine. तो ये कौन सा hormone था? Amine. So T3 and T4 are amines, but parathyroid hormone PTH is a peptide. It's a permutation combination of 20 types of amino acids. When the levels of calcium in the blood regulate the secretion of PTH. So like thyrocalcitonin was also controlled by blood calcium level, parathyroid hormone is also controlled by blood calcium level. याद रखना, all glands are controlled by pituitary gland. So all glands are controlled by pituitary gland, but your parathyroid gland has got nothing to do with pituitary gland. Parathyroid glands will be active depending on the calcium levels in the blood. So blood calcium level will decide the secretion of parathyroid hormone. When is it secreted? Parathyroid hormone is secreted when the blood calcium levels are low. When calcium level is low, then is secreted PTH. Sir, is low calcium level dangerous? Yes. So now calcium is required in your muscles. Vishal sir has just taught you whenever a muscle is supposed to contract from the endoplasmic reticulum of a sarcomere, calcium is given out, which acts on troponin and changes the shape of the troponin, and troponin, tropomyosin will move, and the binding sites, the actin, rather the myosin binding sites uh, on the actin will become exposed, and myosin will bind to the actin and cause sliding filament theory. So calcium is a must for sliding filament theory. In other words, muscle contraction. What will happen अगर calcium कम हो जाएगा? Muscle contraction will be affected, and that will result in a condition called as tetany. Tetany is due to low calcium levels in the blood. All the muscles go into a spasm, और muscles ऐसे spasm में चले जाएंगे और ये tetany का condition हो जाता है. Along with it, calcium is also required for clotting of blood. Clotting of blood. And what will happen if calcium becomes less? The blood clotting becomes delayed. Delayed clotting of blood will take place. So, calcium is required for both. Calcium is required for muscle contraction, and calcium is required for clotting of blood. So, in case of low calcium, you will have less muscle contraction, that is a condition called tetany, and delayed clotting of blood. Delayed clotting of blood will take place. So, kuch bhi ho jaye, less calcium level is dangerous. And when calcium levels are low, which hormone is secreted? PTH, parathyroid hormone. And it is given out when blood calcium levels are low. What will this hormone do? Parathyroid hormone increases calcium level by reabsorbing calcium from the nephron, and bone reabsorption from the calcium dissolution or demineralization. आपके बोन्स में जो कैल्शियम डिपॉजिट होता है, ये कैल्शियम बोन्स में से रीअब्सॉर्ब किए जाते हैं. सो कैल्शियम इज रीअब्सॉर्ब फ्रॉम द बोन, and blood calcium levels, we remember, were low, and parathyroid hormone PTH reabsorbs calcium from the bones. Bones में से calcium reabsorb किया जाता है, and that is called as dissolution or demineralization of bones. Dissolution or demineralization of the bones. And that means bone calcium level will become less, but blood calcium level will become more. So blood calcium levels बढ़ जाएगा. Increase in blood calcium levels and bone calcium level will become less. There is dissolution or demineralization. So that is the first work done by parathyroid. Secondly, it will act on the nephrons, and nephrons may it will act on proximal convoluted tubule and enhance the reabsorption of calcium. So, calcium reabsorption from proximal convoluted tubule will increase. Parathyroid hormone increases calcium reabsorption from the proximal convoluted tubule. तो यूरिन के अंदर calcium will become very less, and all the calcium will enter into blood, and blood में vasa, if you remember, along with the blood vessels, the peritubular capillaries के अंदर, the blood vessels के अंदर calcium will go in, and all the calcium will deposit in the blood. तो parathyroid hormone दो चीजें करता है. It reabsorbs calcium from the bones, and also helps it reabsorption of calcium from PCT, reabsorption of calcium from proximal convoluted tubule, from urine, and urine calcium will become less. Urine calcium will become less. Bone calcium will become less. But where does all this calcium go from urine and bones into blood? And blood calcium levels will increase. Blood calcium level will increase. तो blood calcium level बढ़ जाएगा. And for this reason, it is given out, parathyroid hormone is given out when calcium level is low, and it will help in increasing calcium level. As a matter of fact, it also increases calcium absorption from digested food. तो आपके बोन्स में से भी कैल्शियम आता है, ब्लड में से भी कैल्शियम आता है, और आपके इंटेस्टाइन से भी जो भी खाना खाया है उसमें से कैल्शियम रीअब्सॉर्ब होता है, and blood calcium level will increase. For which reason PTH is called as hypercalcemic hormone. ये बहुत बार नीट में पूछते हैं, what is PTH called as? Hypercalcemic hormone. It will increase, that is hyper, calcemic, that is calcium, emic, emia, blood, calcium, emic, blood. It will increase calcium level in the blood. Increase calcium level in the blood. So what is PTH, parathyroid hormone, called as? Hypercalcemic hormone. Thus, the calcium balance is maintained by TCT and PTH. Thyrocalcitonin will decrease calcium level in the blood, and is called as hypocalcemic hormone. And parathyroid hormone will increase calcium in the blood, and that is called as hypercalcemic hormone. So thyrocalcitonin TCT will decrease calcium in the blood, and that is called hypocalcemic hormone. Parathyroid hormone will increase calcium blood. It is called as hypercalcemic hormone. So thyroxine, rather calcium कम कौन करता है? Who is hypocalcemic? Thyrocalcitonin is hypocalcemic. Who is increasing calcium in the blood? Who increases blood calcium level? Who is hypercalcemic? It is parathyroid hormone, PTH, that is hypercalcemic. So thyrocalcitonin TCT is hypocalcemic, and PTH, parathyroid hormone, is hypercalcemic, and they are antagonistic in their action, and by their beautiful antagonistic action, opposite action, they will maintain the blood calcium levels. They will maintain calcium levels in the blood, prevent excessive calcium, kidney stone also, or prevent decrease in calcium, tetany, and delayed clotting also. So blood calcium levels are maintained constant by PTH and by thyrocalcitonin. So TCT, thyrocalcitonin, and parathyroid hormone PTH regulate or maintain your blood calcium levels constant. Chaliye, good, you understood this.